And welcome back to another episode of PWT Talks NXT. I'm Nate Lindberg here with the Dr. Kevin P. Cattani, PhD. Kelly is, Kelly was in a bit of a dilemma and needed to drive back from Dallas because of the snowstorm and all of that. So, he texted me earlier in the week. He's like, I can't do the show this week. And I'm like, well, that's fine. I'm sure Kevin will come in and pinch hit. So, Kevin, thank you very much for doing just that. How you doing tonight, man?
Listen, I am so fabulous, and I know that it's jumping show metas here, but I was so entertained by it yesterday that I want to start off by saying, Nate, that you are cursed. You are cursed.
Ha!
Sorry, you're not
Well,
really cursed, but I just got such a kick out of him doing the New Day thing with the curse thing. It was just fabulous.
so oddly enough, and now I just moved. If as some people might be able to tell if you're watching on YouTube, I'm not where I normally am, and that's in a spaceship. Which for those of you who don't watch on YouTube, that's my background. Usually, it's like me inside of a spaceship. Anyway, I moved. I'm in a new office slash studio space, so I'm really excited to deck this out and like actually do a show from here and stop unpacking. I have gone nonstop for I don't know, a very long time. I slept for about 2 hours last night, 2 or 3 hours, and then just went right back to it. So I'm running on hopes, dreams, and caffeine. So I'm hoping I can get through a show without falling asleep. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best.
Well, listen, don't worry. You've got me and the chat to post you up. So
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Good fella, thank you very much. Says space looks cool. I'm excited. I just painted when I moved in, these walls were pink, like pink. Nothing against pink at all. I like the color, but not for my office. So I did some painting, and yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Everybody, thank you for the congrats and things like that. I appreciate it. All right, into NXT. So we had NXT coming from Houston. We had a Booker T appreciation. We had some title matches, 3 of them to be exact. Whole lot of things leading up to Stand and Deliver. JC Jane surviving a triple threat, a whole bunch of stuff. So let's do what we always do, though, and go to the main event. We had Tatum Paxley versus Izzy Dame in a steel cage for the NXT Women's North American Championship. This is probably my favorite match of the night. I really, really enjoyed this. Tatum, actually, hold on. Before I get into that, we started the match. Izzy made her entrance first. Tatum makes her entrance second. As Tatum's making her entrance, Izzy jumps out of the cage and attacks her, beat down, and then for maybe about 90 seconds, 2 minutes or so, then they get back into the ring, and important, Izzy Dame brings a chair with her into the ring, which gets used a few different times throughout the course of the match. What I really liked about this, though, is even though like they started the match this way, and Tatum wound up she looked really good here. Izzy has constantly kind of one-upped her throughout the course of this feud. Even last week, beat her down and was holding up the NXT Women's Championship high above her head. And, that was the shot kind of ending that segment last week. So this was kind of nice to see Izzy get her comeuppance, Tatum to get a solid win in what I wouldn't say, I don't know, maybe a 50-50-ish match or so, give or take. And I think she came out looking like a strong champion here, which is what I really think she needed coming into this match, especially after winning the women's title and losing it in such short order as she did a handful of months ago. I couldn't tell you exactly how many off the top of my head. I was also really expecting the Culling to make some sort of appearance here throughout the course of the match. I said it last week. I was really expecting somebody to interfere in the match and maybe either cost Tatum the title. And I say somebody from the Culling interfering in the match, costing Tatum the title, or trying to help Izzy out and then backfiring, and that's how Izzy lost or something like that. But with how involved and wrapped the Culling is with Izzy Dane, I really expected to see them here, and I'm glad that they didn't go to that well because I think it's so predictable. I think that so many people were kind of would probably at least think about that if you're talking about a steel cage match. A steel cage is meant to keep people out. A lot of times, most times, that is not the case, and people wind up making their way in anyway. But I really like the story of this match. Tatum with the win. Good doctor.
Well, before I get going, let me make a big welcome to our chat today. Looks like we've got some good activity moving already. Um, but yeah, I think I'm all for a good cage match. I also too was gonna. I'm glad you said there at the end that the Culling didn't show up because I had to. I had two bouts of daddy duty during that match that I had to run and help one of my kids. So I was worried I missed something, but I was pretty certain that the culling didn't interfere, and I like that, and I would like to see more of that, where the cage does what the cage is supposed to do. Um, but yeah, I also liked the way this match flowed. I liked the shout out there to Tatum's mother, who was sitting in the front row. That was a nice hello. And also, sorry, before I get too much further, I promised my wife she wanted me to tell everybody that she really liked Izzy's. Well, she thought they were pants, and then she realized very quickly that they were chaps, and softened slightly on it, but still liked the design on them. So I told her I would tell everybody that she enjoyed Izzy's leg attire for the match tonight. Um,
Before you continue, I completely forgot to mention that as Tatum was celebrating after the match, she was walking up the ramp and a trap door opened and she was kidnapped along with the North American title by Blake Monroe, which I thought was kind of different. But include that too in your thoughts as
Yeah,
you
well,
make your rebuttal.
different because typically bombshell characters don't use trapdoors. I would have
Mm.
wholly expected Wendy Chu to come from that trapdoor, or some such character as that. So I think I was also surprised that it was Blake that emerged from the trapdoor. And I think that's setting up a feud. And let me just say quick on Blake Monroe, and I know she only really popped up at the end here, but I just saw an interview with her where sort of the main question was that she had come in with a lot of credibility and a lot of experience. Why did she go to NXT and not right to the main roster? Um, and she has spoken several times now, um, very, very highly about the fact that she wanted the daily training. She wanted to make sure that she shook off any rust between her move between companies, and that she is legitimately liking her time down there. And so that made me feel really good that she would have every excuse to say, essentially, do you know who I am? And instead, she's there and she's working and she's doing what she can. So I really, really like that. Sorry, that was a long diatribe, but she showed up at the end, so I wanted to
We are
hit it
known
there.
to do that on this
Listen,
show.
we have done that a time or six, yes. So all of that said, yeah, I like the match. I got a little nervous when they were both sitting on top of the cage hitting each other because there were several spots early in the match where they were hanging on to the cage and like hitting each other where that cage did not look very solidly put together. And
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know if that's the NXT cage versus the Raw. You know what I mean? Like it did not look sturdy at all, and I got very nervous when they were sitting up there. And thank you, Tommy, for accepting our diatribe. We appreciate that. Um, and so I got very nervous for them because I was not sure how sturdy, and it looked like zip ties were holding parts of it together. And so the hobbyist handyman in me got very nervous because zip ties are a me thing, not a national production thing. And so I got
You
scared.
know, I thought the same thing as I was fixing my shower with duct tape earlier today.
See,
That's a
I
me
would not
thing.
expect WWE to use duct tape for a cage either.
Yep.
Um, but I think they use the space well. I think it's very clear that they work well together. I thought, and not that it's been off, but I actually thought that Tatum's timing was really crisp tonight, and there were several
Yeah.
transitions where like perhaps in even 4 months ago, there would have been gaps in that, or like missed hand connect, like whatever it is. But I thought they were both very crisp tonight, and it really did help tell that story far better than I think it could. And so yeah, I'm happy Tatum won. I think that this could be now the makings of a pretty solid reign. I would expect her to hold it easily through Stand and Deliver, where I imagine she's now going to take on Blake. So yeah, I have only good things to say about it, and I look forward to seeing kind of how each of the Izzy and Tatum catapult from there.
And it looks like in the chat, Tommy McLaughlin, the 80s wrestling is on the same page as you, as they said. So Monroe versus Tatum going forward now, probably makes the most sense. I'm sure Izzy is probably going to complain and try to weasel her way into a rematch of some sort if history on Izzy Dame is any indication. But I've said this, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. I don't remember. Time this week has been a weird thing. So much going on. But anyway, I said this a little while ago. I really enjoy Izzy and Tatum. They have a lot of great chemistry together and all of that. But they've been together for so long at this point in this feud. I'm kind of like, all right, let's see what they can do with other people, and we have obviously in the past, but it's like let's move on.
Yeah, I do think it's time for some fresh matchups. That's for sure.
For sure. And I think Tatum versus a dark Blake might be kind of cool because that dark Blake Monroe character, and then Tatum has. I don't know. There's a duality to Tatum's character where there is that dark side, but then there is that kind of bubbly and cheerful side. So I think that could make for some interesting vignettes and backstage segments or even in-ring segments, but mostly vignettes. I'm kind of hoping that they do something pre-taped, almost in the vein of that like AI video of Tatum kind of floating or swimming or something that they did. I don't know, a handful of maybe a couple months now at this point. I actually really enjoyed that. It might have been AI, but I thought that was a really cool way to present Tatum Paxley. There was a couple other. Here we go. Ryan in the chat says, were you guys surprised that it was only pin and submission to win? I did not realize that. So I am surprised now that you say it. They might have said that and it just flew over my head. I don't know. I'm sure they did because you brought it up. So I'm sure they did say that. And it just went over my head. Truth be told, and I try not to do this when I'm watching NXT, like do something else and pay attention to NXT because obviously I do the show. But I might have been unpacking some boxes and things behind me throughout the course of the night. So certainly possible I missed something. But there's other times I'm paying attention and I still miss stuff. Happens a lot. So who knows? But what about you? Any kind of surprise that it was just pin and submissions? I feel like that's part of
no, because I think, quite honestly, I thought that I didn't pay attention to it either. Not that my attention was diverted, but I didn't look at it and go, "Oh, that stuck out," because I think the complexity, for lack of a better term, of the match itself, the fact that it was in a cage, the fact that there was a lot of use of that cage, I think that it didn't need to be a complicated finish. And so, no, I don't know that it stuck out to me as odd because I think it served what it needed to serve.
No, for sure. I guess it's weird that the stipulation or at least weird to me, and probably Ryan too, because they brought it up. It's at least for me, part of the magic of a steel cage match and the drama of a steel cage match is trying to escape the cage. Like I personally would much prefer, and actually when I play like WWE 2K or something like that in a cage match, and it's like an exhibition type match, and I'm not doing like story mode where I have to do what they give me. I'll turn pin and submission off and just escape the cage because I think it's always like much more fun. I think it's much more fun that way. In the chat, Pile Driver Pete says WWE has always had escape as an option. Might be wrong. As far as I'm aware, I don't remember ever. I mean, granted, I'm not Data from Star Trek who can just recall everything, or like Siri. I don't know. That might be a more
or Todd Martin
relevant
for that
reference.
for that.
Wait, what was that? I'm sorry.
I said or Todd Martin for that matter. Right?
Or yeah, no, I'm not Todd Martin. I'm not for sure. I'm not Todd. So as far as I'm aware, it's always been pin submission or escape from the cage via the door or over the cage.
Yeah, but I think that they put the kibosh on that because the assumption would have been that that was Izzy's, like, as soon as the bell rings, up and over she goes. Like, I think they were trying to make sure that knowing that the culling weren't coming to help, they didn't want a cheap. They were trying to limit the cheap victory from Izzy, knowing that that was probably her game plan.
Yeah.
So in storyline, it makes sense.
Maybe. I'm not sure, but I don't know. I personally think it's it detracts. It takes away from the drama of a steel cage match. There's another word I'm looking for, and I can't bring it to memory right now, so I'm going with drama. But I don't know. I kind of like that. Somebody's trying to escape, and then you get the other person. Especially if it's the face trying to escape, you get the heel right behind them and like rips them back down off the cage. I think it can make for some cool moments. Now, granted, saying that, where I didn't realize, where I missed on commentary that the escape from the cage wasn't necessarily an option or part of stipulation or whatever. I didn't really necessarily miss them not going for the escape either. So I don't know. I think they just probably laid the match out well enough where I didn't necessarily miss those things, but I don't know. I like it. Suspense. Tommy, thank you. That was the word I was looking for. Suspense. Whew. All right. I feel better now because, man, that was bothering me. All right. I think there might have been one or two other things in the chat, but no, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, well, rather than looking through the comments real quick, I'm going to move on because people listening, especially to the PWTorch Daily Cast. There's the plug for that. They might not want to just listen to me ramble like this. Anyway, let's move backwards, shall we? What else? Where are my notes? Wow, I'm organized. Yeah, okay, here we go. Birthright versus Hank and Tank for a tag team tournament qualifier. I'm upset that they're not calling this a Dusty Classic this year, but maybe there's a reason for that. I don't know. But I don't know. I like the nod to Dusty and that stupid Dusty statue. I mean, it wasn't stupid, it was cool, but I don't know, it looked weird. I guess maybe better than the Triple H statue with those bug eyes. I don't know. Anyway, this Birthright, like Uriah Connors and Stax were the members of Birthright versus Hank and Tank. I thought this was a pretty good match. It's weird because last week, Kelly said something that I did not expect Kelly to say, and that is he thinks that Uriah Connors is the one to watch in Birthright. Probably has the highest ceiling. That's what he said. The highest ceiling in Birthright. And I don't know. Even though he's Finley's son and all that, maybe I just wasn't paying as close attention to him. I knew he was good, but not necessarily the one with the highest ceiling. So I kind of watched with that in mind this week, and I definitely think I see what Kelly sees. His build and things might, I guess the look, is maybe that's why I wrote him off, or didn't. Maybe I wouldn't say wrote him off, but I wouldn't have said that he had the highest ceiling in Birthright. And I don't know if I still would, but I definitely think he's got a much higher ceiling this week than I did at this time last week. That said, he was the one that picked up the win tonight over, I believe it was Hank he rolled up after Lexus King wound up trying to interfere in the match, kind of stood right in the center of the match. And as I wrote in my notes, he got, I hit my mic. As I wrote in my notes, he got honked right between the two of them.
Is that the official term?
I don't know, but they Booker, I think it was Booker T, yelled out honk honk as they sandwiched the poor lad between the two.
He's not a poor lad. He deserved every ounce of that skin to skin
100%.
that he got.
100%. So yeah, this kind of made a little bit of an opening, allowing Raya Connors to roll up Hank for the win, and they advance in this tag team turmoil. It's not a turmoil. Tag team tournament of doom. I feel like it needs a name.
No, it needs another T. Tag team tournament of tenacity. We need to alliterate here.
Oh yes. Paul Heyman, alliteration. There we go.
Yes.
So yeah, let me throw to you on this tag team match.
Sure, and I heard Kelly say that too, and I have learned. Well, I learned in very short order early in my time with Kelly, but it continues to be reinforced that he has a really good wrestling gut. So I'm going to trust him. But as I look at Mr.
I hate to admit it, but you're right.
Well, listen, you don't have to say it out loud. You can hold on to that if you want.
He's not here, and he doesn't watch the podcast back.
In that case, let me tell you about Kelly. No, I think my thing is Uriah is that like baseball prospect. Like please understand, I'm not comparing him to this person, but he very much gives me Pittsburgh Pirate rookie Barry Bonds right now. He is not home run king, grown man, tree trunk legs Barry Bonds yet. And I think even though there is a place for all body types to be successful in WWE, I just think when you have him in a setting where those guys have more time in the performance center, they've taken more time to develop their bodies, he just kind of looks like one of these is not like the other sort of deal. Yes, Tommy, without the steroids, or the special juice, as they say. And so that's all. I think that's why he just kind of sticks out. Is he still is green from the perspective that he hasn't had the time in the weight room and all that. But I think his pedigree and his work ethic are going to take him very far. We just kind of need to wait for him to mature into his body to start looking more of the part, maybe in general. But that said, I much like we had many talks about the D'Angelo family and kind of and our many musings on were they actually good? How long were we going to give them? I think they could have done far worse in making a faction together. And so I think if this is a chance for Lexus to sort of be a true mouthpiece and show what he can do, in the vein of his dad, as good as he was on the mic, and you sort of have all these folks that have tie-ins to second and third generation wrestlers, there's no reason why it can't work. I think that also, did you see that Timothy Thatcher was named the Evolve general manager the other day? So I didn't. Yeah, I guess he's done wrestling now, and Robert Stone named him the general manager of Evolve.
That's awesome. I really hope we get him on NXT, even if he's not wrestling. I love Timothy.
No, I really want him wrestling again. I miss him. I don't know that he got a fair shake.
Absolutely not.
But in any event, so I think this group has a chance to be successful. I think personally, they need to find the line of like reminding us and telling us about their lineages without sort of overdoing it. Now, I don't know that NXT is particularly good at not overdoing it, but I do wonder, because I've noticed that NXT has taken care to like do things that the main roster did not do very well and do them better, right? Well, so here's what I'll say. In the way that Wade and Todd and others called for the new Wyatt Six, for each person to have a vignette of like, here's my motivation for joining the group. Here's why I've adopted this character. Like, to give us a real sense of who these people are, and they never gave it to us. I think this group opens the door wide open to letting Charlie Dempsey talk about growing up in a ring with Regal as his dad, to give Connors a chance to talk about what it was like watching his dad and his older brother in the ring. You know what I mean? Like, give these guys a chance to lean into their legacy without, again, sort of beating you over the head with it. And I think that's going to help them connect to the audience far better than if you only give them sort of the one backstage segment and one match per week. You're not developing that connection, especially with Connors, who previously we knew was part of Chase U, so you wouldn't have had any real time to invest in him. And Stacks needs to get the D'Angelo stink off him. Dempsey and the no core. You know what I mean? Like, they each sort of have a little bit of baggage that if you could let them sort of make their own vignettes about and flashbacks to their parents in the ring and all that, I think that could really flesh that group out and give them a far better head start than they're currently getting. But yeah, that said, I think they cover a lot of different styles in that group. They can wrestle a lot of different types of matches with that group, and so I'm excited to see it flourish. Admittedly, having been a big Heavy Machinery fan, I always keep my fingers crossed that Hank and Tank will overperform their station. But they are a fabulous group that work well together, and if they're in there to take losses, they're still very entertaining. They're still over with the crowd. So as much as I would like to see them win, I understand that that's probably not their long-term role. And I'll have to just keep moving, right? I'm the guy that notoriously picks the flop outs. Like, in my wrestling group chat, like, I was a huge No Way Jose fan, and Exhibit A was a big, not Kino. What was the guy who was the finest? I knew I was going to blank on his name. He came out with like the fur coat, and his music just kept telling everybody how he was the finest. And I can't believe I'm forgetting.
Breeze?
No. He why is Kino is in my head, but that's not his name. It doesn't matter. He now works for the Indiana Jones stunt show in Orlando at MGM Studios. So that's something.
Kona Reeves.
Kona Reeves. There
thank
it
you
is.
To
and
Ryan
thank you, Goodfella and Ryan. Yes. Yep. So like, I was fans of these guys who like ultimately flamed out. And so like, I'm notorious for picking the guy. So don't go with what I say. But I'd like to see this group do well. But I do think they need to explain to everybody, in a group with a name that lets you know that they're all second and third generation guys, explain it.
Yeah. No, I agree. So like, Kelly and I talked a little bit about this a little while ago, and I kind of liked the fact when they were putting this faction together, they mentioned, your dad, my dad, their dad, whose dad, my dad, whose, and it was talking about their lineage not without, but they were talking about their lineage, but in kind of a if you know type of a way. And I kind of like that, because if you're a true, I don't want to say a true fan, that's not what I mean, but if you're a hardcore wrestling fan, somebody that is listening to a podcast like this, then it's kind of a nice little nod to you, and like, I don't know, at least for me, it kind of gets you a little excited. And then with the normal fans, like, well, who's their dad? And maybe they wonder week to week, or they take the time to look it up or something. So I did like the way that they approached this, by kind of not mentioning it. But I think it was 2 weeks ago. Well, it might have been 3, but 2 or 3 weeks ago, they finally mentioned, by name, I think it was Finlay and Regal. And now obviously they brought Finlay and Regal in, but I agree with you. I think they should at least do something like maybe every week for the next few weeks, they do a vignette on one person in that group and kind of explain who it is, or maybe just one vignette. Maybe you don't need to do it on each one. Maybe like, now that I think of it and I say it out loud, that sounds excessive. Maybe just do one vignette or split it across, do a 2-part vignette across one episode where you explain the birthright, you explain the bloodline, you explain who they are. And maybe you don't need to use a family tree like the Anawai family or something like that, as we've seen many times with the bloodline during that story, and other times too. But I have something along those lines. I think it would help build the faction up and give them some more credibility is really the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. And I think too, it capitalizes on a place where their competitor is weak, right? I think that's one of the main criticisms that AEW gets is they rely a lot on assumed knowledge. And I think that's one thing that WWE does well is they repeat and repeat and repeat and tell you why that, and so here's your chance to do this. Let's not forget who we are in this moment, and even if we can't use the names, right, or don't want to, right, like how Braun Breaker was insistent that he not be called a Steiner because he wanted to sort of forge his own path. That's fine if you don't want to change their names or use their government names, but at least let them talk through, well, my dad was this guy back in the day, and look at all the things, you know what I mean? Like, let them sort of at least talk through it. So,
and it's fine if you don't want to use their government name, but at least don't use a name that has that many Ks. I'm still on it. I've been on it for 5 years now. Braun Breaker. I don't know, 5 years, however long it's been. It seems like forever. And yesterday, all at the same time. Getting old is weird. Anyway, all right. I think that brings us to the end of that. Let's go with Fallon Henley versus Ren Sinclair for the North American title. This might have been my second favorite match.
No, this was not North American. This was Speed.
Oh, Speed. Thank you. I wrote North American, and it's okay. Speed title, not North American title. That makes a hell of a lot more sense because it only went I think 3 minutes and
4 and change. Like I think there was like a minute and change or so left.
Oh, okay, yeah. I thought this was a great match for what it was. Historically, I'm not a big fan of speed matches. I feel like you really can't. You can't really tell a great story in 3 minutes. Granted, I guess for years the women's division tried to do it and things like that. But whatever. I digress. I thought this was pretty good. Ren fighting from underneath and kind of squeaking out the wind at the end. I really like this, and I kind of love the back and forth with the submissions. But what I really love is the name of her finisher. They brought it up a couple times now, and I forgot to bring it up. I think at least last week, or the week before. The final wrench, and I'm assuming it's spelled with a W.
Nope.
For Ren Sinclair. Oh yeah, actually would be anyway, because that's how you spell wrench.
That is how you spell wrench. That would.
Dumbass. Wow. Anyway, wow. I'm a little embarrassed by that. Anyway, it threw me off.
Don't, but you've been packing all day. Your brain's jammed. It's okay.
Yeah, tell me about it. I'm like 90% unpacked. I'm like shocked with how much I got done today.
Well, when you've done 36 hours out of the last 38, I would hope that you'd be.
Yeah, right. Yeah, seriously. Ren Sinclair with the final wrench picks up the win, becomes the new Speed champion. We saw I may as well throw this in too. We saw a segment a little bit later on in the night with all 3 members of Fatal Influence chatting backstage. Fallon Henley was a little bit upset that she lost her title and seemed a little bit upset about still being a lackey to JC Jane. She said her and Lainey Reed would take care of the person that take care of
Kendall and Ren Sinclair.
It was Kendall and Ren. Thank you. They said they'd take care of the 2 of them, and Fallon Henley kind of had this I don't say attitude about it, but maybe a bit of an attitude about it.
Yeah.
Um, and kind of, at least in my opinion, inferring that she does not want to be part. She does not want to be the. She wants to be the leader of Fatal Influence, or maybe challenge for the NXT Championship or something along those lines. But she wants more for herself. That's what I'm taking from that. She wants more. Um, yeah. So anyway, Ren Sinclair, final wrench, wins the Speed Championship. Good doctor.
Well, firstly, I have to say that my daughter, her first name is Ren. And so now
Oh,
every
great.
time this woman is on the screen, my daughter's going nuts that there's a wrestler named after her. So she loves, loves, loves that. Firstly, before we talk about this match, I'm looking at Tommy's second to last comment. Are we sure that Tommy is not CJ in disguise talking about Bailey here? I just want to double check because I've never seen them in the same place at the same time that we don't have undercover CJ making comments. Just kidding, Tommy. No, I like this a lot. I know that others have been critical of the speed format for a host of reasons, but I think it is one of those situations where um, the speed division is a great way to make people and give them a chance to shine and I think while the time constraint perhaps logically doesn't make a lot of sense because then you could turn it around and say, well, why doesn't everybody try to beat everybody in 5 minutes? Okay. But I think this is one of those very safe formats where you're going to get a lot of action. Um, uh, you're going to get a lot of um, moves and transitions and all that in a short amount of time, and I'm for that. I really loved, and I thought you were going there, and I think you stopped just short, but I loved that final two move sequence
Hmm.
where Fallon had her thing in, and just as quickly Ren transitioned, turned it over, and put on the wrench and won the match. I thought that was such a crisp two move sequence, and I'm going to assume that that was the first time that they did that ever in one take, ready to rock and roll. That's going to be my assumption. That's my head canon anyway. Don't ruin it for me, Nate.
I won't. I
Um,
won't.
Thank you. And so, yeah, and I liked too that even though Fatal Influence was out there and obviously would have had plenty of opportunity to get involved inside the ring like they did outside, again, I was very impressed with the restraint of sort of keeping them out of the way and letting Fallon sort of do what she needs to do. But I do think part of Fallon's frustration at the end was the fact that she had her people out there and they didn't do anything about it. And then just to speak to that segment you were talking about, I know that we give backstage segments flack for lots of reasons when they earn it. But to me, this was the first one in a while where it was very clear that the three of them were standing in that room and they were not told action until half a second after the camera was on them because JC very clearly looks at the camera and then starts laughing and I'm like, "Oh, honey, you blew the timing on that one." Like all that background action, I don't know a whole lot about cinema. Kelly can jump in with his expertise. Um,
But he's not here.
but he's not here. Oh, but I
Oh,
I do think that's something as easy as saying, "Okay, start laughing. 3, 2, 1," that sort of thing. But production notes aside, um, certainly JC continues to win. And I was going to say maybe we'll get to this later in sort of our post-event wrap-up notes, Nate. But I'm starting to feel very similar, but like different attainment vibes between JC and Shayna. Because remember, for how long did we say, surely this match is the match that she loses? Surely this match is the match that she loses. But she just was a badass that kept winning.
yep.
And now with JC, surely this is the match that she loses. Surely she's not going to escape this. And she finds a way. So, like, they're doing a similar thing in opposite ways. And so I suppose if any part of the current JC storyline is a callback to the Shayna storyline, but in a smarmy chicken S heel sort of way, I'm for it. But I'm getting that vibe too now, where there's just been several matches lately where it's like this is certainly going to be her time to lose it, and somehow she keeps winning it. And also, Ryan, thank you for your comment about my daughter. I appreciate that. Um, so yeah, so I think it was good. I'm happy for Ren. I'm excited to see what she does. I'm excited to see how the next tournament, like who gets entered into this next tournament, because certainly Fallon mentioned that's going to be her only way back to getting a rematch is to win the tournament again. And so this could be a chance to get a few more women in to see how that all shapes up.
Tommy, I'm upset. You took the words out of my mouth. I always, anytime I hear Shirley, I don't call me Shirley. Airplane reference. I'm not really upset, Tommy. I'm actually proud that somebody got to it before I did. But no, I'm in agreement with you. I'm completely in agreement with you there. So Sexy Red's coming back for Stand and Deliver. Are you excited?
Listen, I have been counting down the minutes until I got more Sexy Red in my life. I'm so excited that now we're going to get her back.
Okay, we've mentioned it.
Just kidding. Right. I don't actually have a countdown clock. Continue.
Yeah, no, I don't. I didn't think you did. I didn't think you did. But that was the next thing on my list to talk about. So, we just did that. Booker T Appreciation Night here in Houston, where NXT was. I don't know if I brought that up at the start of the show that we were in Houston tonight. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't.
You did.
Okay, Kevin's telling me I did, so I'm going to say I did. I'm gonna believe you.
I wouldn't steer you wrong, Nate.
You wouldn't. Yeah, you wouldn't steer me wrong. You wouldn't lie to me. I know where you live. Well, I kind of do. I get your address.
There you go.
Anyway,
come visit anytime. You're welcome anytime.
I'm very sleep deprived and punchy, so I apologize. Yes, Booker T Appreciation Night here in Houston. This I thought was a fun segment. Now, as much as sometimes we give Booker T flack for his commentary, which I got to admit, I think he's getting, well, I was going to say getting better, but then he did, yeah, man. So I don't know. He's egregious, but whatever. He is a bona fide legend. He's one of the all-time greats in both the singles and tag team divisions. Tag team, obviously, in WCW with his brother. And other promotions, I believe, before they hit WCW, but don't quote me on that because I don't remember off the top of my head. I thought this was like I said, it was a really cool tribute to him. They showed a tribute video, kind of just with a whole slew of people from his past, kind of talking all about how awesome Booker T is, and it actually brought a tear to his eye when we got back into the ring. He was kind of wiping tears away, and I don't think it was acting. It seemed legit. I know
it did seem legit.
Wrestling's not real, but sometimes it hits you in the feels.
Oh boy!
Like the
dropping some bars here. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I need to be sleep deprived and do the show more often, I think. But anyway. Then Keanu Carver, or since this is Booker T Appreciation Night, I should say Keanu Carver, because he's never called him Keanu. Keanu Carver makes his way to the ring in what I thought was this was a great outing for Keanu Carver. He comes down to the ring. He's got a mic in hand. He's telling the crowd to shut up. It's his turn to talk. Listen to me. I forget exactly the words that came out of his mouth, but the crowd was on fire booing him. Tons and tons of heat. As long as they can kind of keep that trajectory for him, and I think they can. And when I say they, I'm including the man who is behind the character of Keanu Carver. I don't know his name off the top of my head. I'm including him in that they. If they get behind him and they're able to kind of take that character in this direction week after week after week, I think that ceiling is really high for this guy. Super intense. He comes out, basically lays all of Booker T had a whole bunch of people from Reality of Wrestling, a bunch of his students there. And they were all, either in the ring or outside the ring, kind of playing appreciation, showing their appreciation to Booker T, and they kind of like, I don't know, almost like a good guy trying to get to the villain. Keanu playing the good guy. Well, not really a bad analogy, but in a movie, a good guy's trying to get to the villain, and he's got to fight through all the goons. Well, that's what Keanu Carver did. Fought through all of Booker T's goons and tried to get to Booker T. Jasper Troy, his music hits. He runs to the ring, and we see him attack Keanu Carver, make the save, and he and Booker T were kind of celebrating the run in, I guess, as a cut. I believe it was as they cut to commercial break. Now, what I am fairly sure was not shown on on TV. So like I've said it before, I'll say it again for anybody who hasn't heard me say it. I watch on Netflix with the VPN, and I pay for the top tier, so I don't get ads and stuff. So sometimes when it goes to a commercial break, rather than just giving you kind of like dead air with the countdown for when it'll return, it'll just stay with whatever's going on in the building. And it stayed on them throughout the entirety of the break. And Booker T kind of calling out Robert Stone, saying, Keanu Carver's out of control and things like that. Did you see that, or was
that was on TV?
Okay, that was on TV. All right.
Yeah.
So that was on TV. But again, they stayed through the break. The entire roster, for the most part, was on the stage, kind of giving appreciation, as was Mr. Stone. And I think that must have been when they cut the break. But then they stayed with the entrances for Ren Sinclair at that point, which I thought was really interesting, because they don't usually do that. They'll usually, cut to like I said, the dead air with the countdown and or something like that. But they stuck with the entrances. I was actually kind of appreciative of that. So it looks like we're going to have some sort of feud going between Keanu Carver and Jasper Troy. Booker T is kind of sandwiched in there, and we kind of, in a way, I kind of expected Keanu Carver to make an appearance here tonight, because there has been the animosity between the two. I believe it's due to their prior history, and I'm now blanking on that. But I know either you or the chat will correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm kind of assuming Booker T is going to be in the corner of Jasper Troy. Before Jasper Troy made his entrance, I was kind of hoping Book was going to get in the ring one last time against Keanu Carver.
One more match.
Booker, as far as I'm aware, still wrestles on and off for his promotion, Reality of Wrestling. Though I don't know if he has in the last year or so. I don't think so, but I could be wrong. I mean, he still could probably go, but yeah, I don't know. Anyway, this is the direction they went. I'm here for it, even though I kind of did want to maybe see one more Booker T match for old time's sake. What say you about Booker T Appreciation Night and the ensuing chaos?
I liked the event. I do believe that this was not supposed to be a long term. When they were telling us this was supposed to be like a couple week deal, and it turned into almost 4 years now of that team, the announced team. I believe that. I do not think that was supposed to be a long term thing. But I like that they had his family in there. I think one of the big oversights to me is either he should have or Vic should have told us who those other two men were. Now, I know they said his students from his wrestling school, but if they mean enough to you to be in the ring with your wife and your two children, I do feel like they should have said, here's current Raw champion Kevin Cattani, and here's current blah, blah, blah champion Nate Lindberg. You know what I mean? Like, these men are in the ring, they're wearing nice clothes, they should have said something. And Tommy, I see Tommy just said, I also wanted Stevie Ray in there. I know that he does conventions and that he's still around, as far as I know. So um, I did kind of hope that he would have been there too. That would have been a nice touch too. Um, but I love that they had his family there. I love that they did make a big deal for him. I just wish they would have gone that step of either Vic introducing these people in the ring or Booker saying, "Hey, I want to thank my wife Charmel and my two kids, Mo and Larry, and I want that sort of thing." I do think that was the only real oversight. And then at the
Yeah.
end,
Now in my head canon is their names are Mo and Larry.
I think it fits, whatever.
Yep.
But then I think at the end, right? So we tried to do the whole like work shoot thing where like I do think he was legitimately touched at the video package. I thought that was very well done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then Keanu comes out, does his thing, and as they pull him away, I actually am not sure. Um, like he asked them to cut the music, and they did, and then he like started talking, and they put the music back on again. So I almost feel like, in the spirit of Sunday Night, that was kind of the producers playing the Oscar music to like let them know, no, we're not going to sit here and let you ad lib for the next 5 minutes. Like we got to keep moving, because he would have yelled at Keanu for a full 5 minutes, if they let him. But I think the end in that way was a little bit sloppy because I knew what they were trying to do. I just don't think the execution was what they needed it to be, to
Yeah.
sort of wrap that up. But listen, he has, like you said, 35 years in wrestling. You don't last that long on accident. You know what I mean? Like he certainly took care of himself, reinvented himself, kept himself relevant. Um, and so I think um, it was a worthy and fitting thing. I do have to say, though, I don't know why they had to give him a plaque that means absolutely nothing. Um, I think that plaque and that silly belt that they gave Rock 2 WrestleManias ago need to
Ugh.
go in the useless trinket Hall of Fame, because why does this man want a plaque commemorating a night on NXT on the CW? Like, he doesn't need that. Um, so there's my own personal attack on the trinket. But otherwise, I thought it was really cool, and he certainly deserves it for what he's done to the industry and all that. So,
As much as I despise the People's Championship for what it is, and I mean, obviously I know where it came from. Muhammad Ali's wife or family, I forget. It came from them and all of that. I get it. I don't like it. He shouldn't be carrying it around when he shows up, if he ever shows up again. But god dang, is that a pretty title? That is a pretty belt. I like it. I really do.
I'll give you
Um,
the aesthetics, but I just think it's like to me,
oh yeah,
and chat and Nate, you correct me if you think I'm totally off my rocker. Carrying that belt around to me is the equivalent of giving yourself a nickname.
yeah. Oh, totally, 100%. Like, I mean, somebody that might not follow wrestling, maybe they were just coming into wrestling at that point. It's like, oh, he's a champion. He seems more important than the people wrestling for the actual WWE Undisputed Championship. What is it? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. I like that analogy. It's like giving yourself a nickname. Call me Slappy. No, don't. That's actually terrible. Please don't. Anyway, Los Americanos versus the Vanity Project. I thought this was a really, also a very fun match between six up and well, actually, I guess three of them are up and comers. Well, yes, they are. They're Los Americanos. Dang it, they're new. But three up and comers versus three veterans, but that have very, I guess, similar styles. Um, a, a lot of energy, a lot of intensity in this match. I'm going to throw to you because I think it's a new house, new routines. I think Corbin is scratching at the door to go outside.
Okay,
So
go.
I'm going to throw to you on this, and
Yeah.
I'll be back momentarily.
All right, sounds good. So, chat, what do you want to talk about? Okay, kidding. Well, I will say for this, I am for something that I don't think was supposed to last as long term as it has, I am so delighted by the Americanos. And I think what is even more fun for this about this for me, having been lifelong fans of both Pete Dunne and Tyler Bates, is when you if you didn't know who they were and you just see them as Ryo and Bravo, okay, fine, we're entertained by them. But the fact that these two guys are as British wrestling strong style like as they get, to see how they have totally bought into this gimmick just makes me smile, and I'm so happy that they are doing well with it. They're doing what they're being asked to do. They've gone above and beyond. um, so I'm very, very, yes, pile driver Pete, I agree wholeheartedly. um, you can't have a bad match, especially with Ryo and Bravo, because of who they are in real life. Those two guys are just too talented to not have good matches with people. Um, and yes, good fella, that airplane spin, like I think it even made him dizzy at the end. Like he even fell over once he let him go. Um, but I just think they're having so much fun with this, and I do think they need to essentially blow off Americano Original versus Americano, and just let these three do their thing. Because I do think certainly the couple times now I've seen them on the AAA shows, they are so over with that crowd. Certainly they were very over tonight. Let them be a thing and just go and get Chad Gable out of this Americano thing and go let him wreak havoc in his own way. Um, you're right. Sorry, Ryan. I don't know what I'm talking about. Ryo and Bravo, Masked Man 1 and Masked Man 2. Um, and so yeah, so I think I they're entertaining, man, and I still haven't seen enough of Vanity Project to really sort of get their vibe yet, but I they are very talented. I think that the three of those guys are certainly going to be a part of the future of WWE, considering they continue to develop the way they want them to. But I was very entertained by the match in general. All six of them were very athletic in kind of what they were doing. And like I said, with Tyler Bate and the Bruiserweight, I don't know how you could have a bad match with that.
No.
So that was my thoughts. I was just speaking on the match in general. I don't think you missed much, Nate, but um,
I could still hear you from the front door. So, um, no, I'm in complete agreement with you on Los Americanos. I think they're having a ton of fun under the masks. Playing that game of wait, I'm not. Wait, you don't know who I am, even though it's maybe a little obvious. Yeah, but yeah, I'm not. Little Jimmy's real. So there's that. Um, I can't believe our Truth wanted to make our little Jimmy action figure that was literally just the box. I think it's great. Um, that was a total tangent. But no, I think like you said, I think they're having a ton of fun with this. They're like super super over in. I mean, not in AAA, absolutely, but definitely with WWE crowd too. Not nearly to the extent of AAA, but um, I'm just really glad that Tyler Bate and um, Pete Dunne are actually getting some decent like screen time. Yeah, sure, they've got masks on, but they are they're so good, so good. Um, so yeah.
Also,
All
if
right.
I may just quick, I see
Oh,
Tommy made a comment about the Killer Bees. Interesting fact.
oh,
Uh, Brian Blair, one of the two Killer Bees, was a city council member in Tampa where I grew up for years. He used to come to our
oh,
schools and talk, not as Killer Bee, but as city councilman Brian Blair. But like when you realize that that's who it was, it just made it so much better. So I just wanted to add a little
yeah,
bit of
yeah,
wrestling
that's
history
cool.
to you there.
That's definitely cool. The one other thing actually I wanted to bring up, and Ryan said it in the chat, Vanity Project or Gen Z guys try to win and then get laid. And that wasn't how I was going to put it, but that I guess is what I was going to say. And I'm sure you probably have picked that up, but what is what it is. But I I really like Vanity, and maybe it's because Brad Baylor and Ricky Smokes were called Swipe Right and Evolve, and in early, their early stuff in NXT. But I think of them as the just Tinder Bros. Like that's like kind of how I would put it. Is they're all Tinder Bros. But they're honestly like they're also very very good. I've said it before. I've seen a lot of Ricky Smokes. Here in the indie scene for chaotic wrestling and rad pro wrestling. Shout out to the New England Pro Wrestling Academy.
I agree.
But I mean, even before he got signed to a WWE ID contract, like, I mean, for at least a couple years now, we're watching him on the indies. Like, he was one person that really stood out at those chaotic and rad pro shows. Um, Not that other people didn't, some people certainly did, but not only did he have the in-ring ability, he looked like a superstar. He looked like he belonged in WWE. So I'm really glad to see him in that spot because he was one of my favorites.
Also,
But
sorry, can I diatribe to close the loop
please do,
for
yes.
Tommy? Jumpin' Jim Brunzell was the other killer bee. Sorry, continue.
Okay. Um, I, I wouldn't be able to tell you that off the top of my head, so there you go. But I agree with you. I think Vanity Project, they are like the future of WWE. These three guys, whether they keep them together as a stable, I don't know. I feel like the Jackson Drake, he probably does have the most upside, and I think that's what the company sees so far, obviously in the presentation of Vanity Project and everything. But I really do. I think either one of them could break out and be some sort of a single star. I think personally, from what I've seen from Ricky Smokes, both on TV and in person, I think he could be like a solid single star. Brad Baylor's, absolutely. And obviously we've seen what Jackson Drake can do. So I think sky's the limit for these guys. I really,
So I have a
really do.
question for you, Nate,
Sure.
because you've seen them wrestle more than I have. Because style-wise, I feel like they would fit in as like a bigger stable with Kit Wilson and his partner, who's currently
Oh,
injured.
yes.
Um, but would that bring these three Vanity Project down by associating with them, or would that actually sort of work in sort of macro?
Ooh, man, that's tough. So in a way, it may wind up bringing them down simply because Pretty Deadly do lose so often. I think if memory serves, in that Chris Van Vliet interview that Kit Wilson just did a couple, I don't know, just maybe 6-7 weeks ago at this point, he said that the only win that Pretty Deadly had in the last year was a victory over Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to win one, it's a good one to win, but you only won one. So maybe it would bring them down a peg in some fans' eyes. But I'm going to take somebody like Tom Staup, our good buddy Tom Staup,
Oh, Tom.
former host of this show, and of 8 years back with Kelly. That is now in the archives and over. But Tom always would say, he's a fan of wrestling. He likes the in-ring wrestling, but he really watches wrestling for the stories. And I think the people, and it's funny because the older I get, the more I kind of do too. Not that I don't watch for the wrestling and I don't appreciate the wrestling, but it's really more of the stories, I think, that keep bringing me back. There's obviously there'll be a match here and there, that will be promoted, and I'm like, ooh, I need to watch that. That is going to be a banger. But in a lot of aspects, kind of the older I get, the more the stories will bring me back. Well, that in this show, but there's whatever. So I think the people that watch for the stories might be over the moon about a pairing between Pretty Deadly and Vanity Project. So man, they could play off each other like super, super, super well. WWE 2K. Not that I'm touting or trying to promote that game any
You
more than
sound like a brand ambassador over here.
yeah, right. I'm not getting paid for this at all by anybody really, but in 2K, I was playing one of the modes. It was my faction mode. I never really play it this year. I'm like, hey, whatever, I'll give it a shot. And the AI, the computer, put a faction together with Chelsea Green and Pretty Deadly and Ethan Page, and I'm like, oh my god, that's amazing. Like
A
I need
faction you never knew you needed.
exactly, and but now, and I thought that was great, but I think Vanity Project and Pretty Deadly would actually make a better pairing. So yeah, at least like I said, in the storyline, in the kind of like that macro sense, like you said. Um, but uh, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but it would certainly make for some interesting creative.
But I think too, even if the combination of the two groups doesn't happen right away, if and when Kit Wilson runs out of things to do with his current excuse me, couldn't get to the mute button fast enough. Um, if they run out of sort of interactions for him to have with this current toxic storyline that he's doing, they could always bump him down for a few weeks
Oh yeah.
to NXT to serve as sort of a mentor to Vanity Project, to at least have them cross paths at some point, because I don't know um, how much longer, and I forget I'm blanking on the other guy's name. I don't know how much longer he's out.
Elton Prince.
There we go. I don't know how much longer Prince is going to be out for. And so if you
Yeah,
need more for Kit to do, have them cross paths now and kind of see how it goes.
from my understanding, from again going back to the Chris Van Vliet interview that Kit Wilson did, it might even be Harry if he even comes back
Oh
from the
wow.
injury that he had. That it looks like he might be able to, but at least as of that recording, it was kind of the day by day, type of a deal. I think it was a neck injury. I'm blanking on the injury, but it was definitely like we're not sure. So obviously we hope he comes back. Like I never want to see anybody go out like that.
No.
But yeah. That said, though, I think they're making not that we talk about the main roster really, but I think they're making the best of a bad situation with Kit
Yeah,
Wilson,
yeah.
with this new toxic masculinity, with the new music that is super super over. So yeah, but all right. Let's move on since we've spent a lot of time talking about Pretty Deadly, and they weren't even on the show.
In spirit. In
But
spirit.
that's okay. As we said earlier, sometimes we go on tangents. All right, our opening match of the night: Sol Ruka versus Zarya versus JC Jane. This, obviously, Sol Ruka and Zarya coming into this match with a lot of animosity towards one another. Sol Ruka was kind of cost her victory by Zarya towards the end of this match, allowing JC Jane to pick up the win and retain her title and continue on this. Well, if I was Vic Joseph, I would call it a reign of terror. Maybe, I don't know. But this long title reign that she's had, and kind of maybe a reign that'll some people, myself included, wouldn't have ever thought would have lasted this
Nope.
long.
Nope.
More power to her. I don't mean that. I don't mean that in a negative way at all. I think she's doing a great job, and actually a better than great job, especially considering where I thought she was. Maybe 2 years ago, really up until she won the title. But anyway, she retains her title. A little bit later on in the night, there was a segment with, where was it? Oh, Sean Legacy. Sean Legacy hurt his leg last week, so he can't compete in the tag team tournament. He went to go tell that to Mr. Stone. Eli Knight was either going to have to forfeit the tag team tournament, or find a new partner. He ended up finding Elio Drake as a partner because, I'm sorry, Elio LaFleur, not Elio Drake.
Elio and Eli Drake put them together.
Exactly. Elio LaFleur will be his new partner. And I only bring that up because at the end of that little conversation, Sol Ruka walks into the room saying that next week she wants an in-ring face-to-face with Zarya, which is weird because, I mean, most weeks wouldn't you just wait till that person was in the ring and then interrupt them? Assuming they went to the ring again.
Or by next week, see him in the parking lot.
Or that, or that. But instead, she requested an official face to face in the ring, if that's even a thing. So we'll see what that brings. I think that's probably going to wind up. If I had to guess, I think this is going to lead up to a stand and deliver match. This feud's been going for so long, and it's been, I was going to say a centerpiece, but I think focal point of NXT is a better way to put it. It's been a focal point of NXT for quite a while now, and I think they have enough, sympathy on Soul. Well, I guess sympathy on both, because I think there are a lot of people that are in Zarya's corner, myself included, kind of. But there's obviously a lot of people that are in Soul's corner. So I think this is something they're building towards to stand and deliver. Whether it be a stipulation match or something like that, I don't know. But yeah, let me throw to you on this opening triple threat match and this face-to-face that will be supposedly happening next week.
Well, I'm sure it will be happening, and I'm sure somebody's going through a table. Yeah,
well, usually if there's a contract.
Well, but this could be one of those like, hey, we'll keep a table to separate them while they have this very civil discussion, and that will lead to one of them going through it.
That is
or
fair.
Robert Stone going through it, and I would be very okay with that too.
Yeah, he's a good ball machine.
He is. The match was what it was. I didn't actually think that JC was going to lose, only because I assumed that this was going to be a mechanism to continue the Soul and Zarya storyline. I also am not convinced that the referee knew they were at the finish yet, because it took him a far longer time than I would have thought to get over to count her being slumped on top of Ruka for the pin. So I don't even know if he realized they were in the finish or not yet.
Or maybe he's just in the wrong spot or something. But
I think he was probably on the other side of the ring. But yeah, so I think they worked well together. I like that they're rebuilding Zarya, because if my memory serves, they brought her in as this monster and then almost immediately paired her with Ruka, and like they never really let her get her wings that way. And so she had a lot of big power stuff tonight. I hope that they give her some more singles stuff to let her sort of show everybody why she was signed in the first place. And I think that a one-on-one with Soul could be a very good match, to really let each of them do what they do well. I would suspect that, like in real life, behind the scenes, they're probably training partners. So I can imagine they're going to have really, really good fluidity and chemistry with each other. And if it's a blood feud at Stand and Deliver, let's go. And if it happens at a named show plus or minus Stand and Deliver, I think that'd be okay too.
Yeah. Like I think it'll be going to Stand and Deliver, but who knows? Who knows? They put this match on a random. Well, I guess this wasn't a random show. This was in Houston. They were trying to promote it a bit. So yeah, okay, I take that back. But yeah. So no, we'll see. We'll see what happens as we move forward. But I don't know. As much as I am looking forward to this match, so, I think it's going to be a great contest. I am also kind of looking forward to seeing what Zarya does when she's not married to Sol Ruka. Yeah. Because as you said, basically, as soon as she got brought in, she got paired with Sol Ruka. That's pretty much all she's done since her debut, like a little over a year ago. Actually, much more than that, because I forgot it was about the same time as Julia and Stephanie. So yeah, like I agree with Tommy. Tommy says Soul deserves a call up. I I think that's going to happen sooner rather than later. She's had, I think, what, 2 Royal Rumble appearances now. She was on John Cena's last show. She's been she's done a lot with the main roster. I guess that's my point.
Yeah.
So I think I don't know. I would like to see that sooner rather than later for her. And I don't know. Hey, we're at stand and deliver season, so after the show, you never know. And I did not
And
mean
I,
for that trend.
and I'll agree with Ryan, who said that Zarya should not have talked when she arrived, to say
Yeah.
that I agree that she was another one with Solo and Jacob Fatu, whose aura and presence meant a lot more to their character than their ability to speak. And so I agree. I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you got to let the mystique build before if any of you are fans of Kevin Smith films, what I've
Yes.
always loved about him is in every movie that he plays Silent Bob, he has one line somewhere in the movie, and that's it. And so you get to really drink in what Silent Bob is. I think though Zarya would be a character too that let her just wreck people, call it a night, and just kind of wonder what's going on in her head as she continues to pile drive through people. But
I am way too sleep deprived to have you put the image of silent Zarya and I guess Soul J or something in my head. Yeah, like right now, I've got like standing outside the convenience store,
yep.
dressed like Jay and Silent Bob, but it's Zarya and Sol Ruka.
Well, maybe we can
There's,
pass that into the suggestion box for Halloween Havoc this year when they all
you
dress up as characters.
took the words right out of my mouth. I was just gonna say that.
I think they would make a
So
great Jay and Silent Bob.
I'm glad we're on the same wavelength here. Man, I got to go back. I want to watch Clerks again. It's been way too long.
Or Dogma, as Tommy just pointed
Or
out. Dogma's
Dogma.
a classic, yeah.
Yep. And I've actually only ever seen Dogma once because like it was so hard to watch Dogma. Um, it wasn't on any streaming service for a long time. It
Yeah, I
wasn't.
have the DVD. I had to have the DVD
Yeah.
before they put it on anything. I
Um,
also, a little known fact, and as Tommy will point out, we digress. I actually have a little Buddy Christ figurine on my desk at work.
all
So,
right, Buddy Christ.
yes.
All right. Let us move on because we've already gone an hour and 18 minutes. 17 minutes. Okay, we still have a few things to touch on. Ricky. That wasn't the show. Sorry, that wasn't the show opener. That was Ethan and Ricky. They both had a promo together in the ring. Started. Actually, who came out first? I didn't write it down. I think it was Ethan that came out first.
Ricky came out first, and then Ethan interrupted him, and then came
That's right.
out, and
That's
then
right.
your friend
That's
and
right.
mine, Joe Hendry, came out too.
Yep, Ethan comes out and said that he because right, all right, it's all coming back to me now. Ricky comes out first, basically saying that you might not have thought that him and Ethan were on the same page, but now they're on the same page, and last week proved it. Ethan winds up coming out and kind of was like, "Yeah, we're on the same page, sorta." He's like, "I do want to be a two-time, or I didn't want to be a two-time North American champion, but I do want to be a two-time champion." And that's kind of when he put his hat in the race and we already knew he was putting his hat in to become the next NXT champion. Joe Hendry, who is the current NXT champion, makes his way to the ring, and the three of them have a little kibitzing in the ring before Tony D'Angelo, the fourth person in this main event, main title, I guess, men's title segment, or angle rather, men's main event angle. Those are the words I wanted to say. Last week we weren't quite sure where Tony was going to fit in here. Kelly and I were, maybe he might insert himself kind of in it. We didn't exactly predict this exact scenario, but we thought maybe Tony might insert himself into the feud like this, since he did call Joe Hendry out last week, and it's kind of been in the periphery of kind of calling out the champion and wanting the title. So I think this is an effective way to kind of at least include Tony D'Angelo. Uh, the rest of the segment, I don't want to say I could do without it because it wasn't a bad segment. I mean, even like Joe Hendry calling out Ricky and for the bad guitar and singing and all of that. It was kind of probably a little bit of a poke at the fact that it was one of the most disliked things that they'd ever put on YouTube, and they actually took it off of social media because it was like just so, or at least, I mean, I'm assuming it's because it was so negatively received by a lot of people in a bad way, not in a good way. I still hold my ground and say I really enjoyed that segment for all the reasons everybody hated it, but whatever. Um, but I thought that was a good callback from Joe Hendry, and I think he kind of held his ground as champion there. At least in that verbal confrontation between the other two. But yeah, I think there's a good way to include Tony D'Angelo, but kind of paint by numbers, I guess, is a good way of putting it for the other three. It was kind of, I don't know, predictable and what you might have expected from this segment, I guess. So paint by numbers, that's a good way of putting it for what I'm trying to say. So let me throw to you on this whole shebang.
Yeah, I definitely I I stopped short of using the term odd couple with Ricky and Ethan because they're not an odd couple, but like um, certainly they are trying to tiptoe the line of comedy with seriousness, um, and sort of as they trip over each other in their words and as they sort of figure all that out. But it is entertaining nonetheless. Um, and I, in the same way that Tommy and others think that maybe also that Tony is not long for NXT. I'm still wondering when Ethan's getting his call up because I think he's just done absolutely everything that he can, um, and perhaps like keep that thing with him and Chelsea going on the main roster. I think that has a lot of legs still. Um, but yeah, this was a fine segment. I like. I think Joe Hendry got a good pop. Um, ever since I forget who, maybe Todd on the fix, but somebody had pointed out a few weeks ago that Joe Hendry's reactions have been waning, not massively, but slightly. And so now I'm very like aware of listening to how the crowd reacts when he shows up. And I thought he got a great reaction tonight in Houston. I thought the crowd was very much into him. I thought it was a good crowd in general. I think they did all the things that the Performance Center crowd does, um, in terms of, I'll say, following the rules, but they were very into it and very supportive, and I thought that was really cool. Um, because Houston, I don't think, gets a lot of NXT live events or just live events in general, and so I think they wanted to show that they could host something like that. So yeah, I thought it was good. Um, I will hold on to my position that I'm still over Tony D in general. I think just bring him up to the main roster and put him in a Roman soldier hat like you did with Karrion Kross and see what you can do with him. I don't know,
Oh,
but but
oh,
I I imagine they're going to let him flesh out this lone wolfy type character for a little bit. Part of me wonders, and I don't always mean to sort of make callbacks and or sort of flashbacks to each of these folks, but like in the vein of NXT trying to right the wrongs of either previous NXT folks or main roster folks. I feel like this current version of Tony D is kind of what they wanted Baron Corbin to be when he was sort of the
mhm.
leather vest wearing guy. Um, and for one reason or other, just didn't work out that way. So I feel like that's kind of a redo on that. Um, so I imagine they'll let him breathe here through WrestleMania season, and then I think either you need to pull him up or really establish his character as whatever it is, because for those of us that have been watching NXT for a while, he's still the Don and Stax is still around, and there's still enough of that where it's like there needs to be a separation and just let him breathe, or else pull him up and let him start figuring it out up there.
I went into this quite a bit on the VIP roundtable after Vengeance Day, and then again a little bit last week. But I really worry about Tony D once he hits the main roster. Like I worried about it. I worried about this exact same thing with the mafioso gimmick, but right now he had a clear mission. Well, he had two clear missions. Right, one of them was come and destroy Dark State since they took his family away from him. But then he revealed that the second one was to win the NXT championship. And now that he's got that clear mission, he's been wrestling with a lot more intensity to the point where he has turned Kelly. Kelly isn't like go away anymore, right?
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. And I think if he keeps wrestling with that type of intensity, like he's going to be he's going to be doing well. But once he hits the main roster, what is he? What's the gimmick? It kind of goes back to that whole question from, I don't know, 10 years ago. Who is Seth Rollins? Who is Tony D'Angelo? What is he beyond? Inigo Montoya from The Princess Bride. Once he finally killed the six-fingered man, he didn't know what to do because he was in the revenge business, right?
Yep.
What will Tony D'Angelo do now that he's got the revenge on Dark State? Now that he's vying for the or assuming going to be vying for the NXT championship. Let's say he wins. Then what? Then where does that character go? And I'm kind of wondering, I'm worried about him hitting the main roster, especially if he doesn't wind up winning the NXT championship. He doesn't have that accolade. Who does he become? I have been for a long time a lot higher on Tony D than I think both you and definitely Kelly, at least until now, because Kelly at least kind of sort of flipped. But after his match last week, I really do see the it factor that I think the WWE sees, and it's got to be the reason they've kept him around for as long as they have. So I don't know. I really like the guy, but I don't know where this character goes after this story arc, and I hate to say that, but that kind of just seems to be the par for the course, I guess, with Tony D'Angelo and his gimmicks. But
but I'll here, Goodfella here makes a point about that they've invested a lot in him. I think that's sort of they've painted themselves into a corner, quite honestly, because I think in talent and sort of current character personality, he is a mid-carder at best. You know what I mean? Like, you can throw him in, he can take bumps, he's a big guy, he can do some things, but he is not a main event person.
No.
But if you bring him up and you do that thing, you then will have to admit that all of the investment you made in making him the Don and doing the ring thing and all of that was for nothing. And if WWE has any faults, and they have several, being able to swallow their pride, they're not strong in that. And so I think knowing how much they've put into him and his various rebrands, they would have to eat a lot of crow if they bring him up, and all he is now someone who's the fall guy to some of the up-and-coming mid-carders they're trying to elevate to sort of that next level.
Yeah. No, I agree with you there. I mean, I don't personally think that he is main event level for the main roster. I think he's barely there for NXT, and nothing to knock the guy. Like, I don't mean that as like anything to knock him whatsoever. But when you have people like Ricky Saints and Ethan Page, and they are, I think they're better in the ring. They've got more compelling characters and things like that. This character is just going to get lost in the main roster, and I think you're right. Kind of solid mid card type of an act, especially if there is no clear mission and clear direction for that character. And unless he just, if they debuted him on the main roster and he's like just attacking people at random or whatever, it's like, okay, well, why are you doing that? Like, to bring chaos to the WWE. We've seen that a million times, you know?
Too
So,
many times, yeah.
like, I don't know what that angle would be. They'd have to tell some really, really compelling story to get people invested in him. And I just don't know at this point, after so many years, I don't know if he can tell that story. But that said, I have seen a lot more fire and intensity out of him, both on promos and in the ring, just especially since his return. But that match in particular last week, I don't know. I like the guy. I like this character, but I I just don't know where the progression is for that character. So yeah. All right. Did we talk about Birthright?
Yes.
We did. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought so. All right.
You know, we didn't talk about
What's that?
the parking lot brawl. Oh, that's right. There was no parking lot this week.
Well, they're I think it spilled into the parking lot a little bit. OTM and Dark State, they continued to brawl backstage per usual.
Now, let's, in fairness, that was a loading dock.
Oh, was okay. All right. I couldn't remember. So I guess maybe parking lot adjacent.
Okay. I'll allow it.
Not the parking lot. Next week, there will be a Gauntlet Eliminator match for the winner of the Gauntlet Eliminator will go to Stand and Deliver to face Miles Bourne for the North American Championship. Speaking of Birthright walked into that scene, and Lexus King said he wanted to be in that. So we'll see. We'll probably see Lexus King in that Gauntlet Eliminator. Robert Stone was approached by William Regal in one of the Birthright segments that we did talk about, but I forgot to bring up. William Regal walked up to Robert Stone, and as one of the previous general managers, my favorite general manager of NXT, he said that Robert Stone was doing a damn good job, and he's going to talk to Shawn Michaels about making this interim GM thing a full-time thing. So let me throw to you then on this. How do you feel Stone has been doing, and how do you feel about him taking on the role full-time?
I think he would be fabulous. I think it's a good change of pace from Ava, because good, bad, or otherwise, I think Ava never escaped being the Rock's daughter. So even if she earned the position, which in some ways I think you could say she did, or at least even if she was given it up front, she did work hard to try to be a presence as a GM. You're never going to get that stink off. And I think what folks, including myself, what folks like about Robert Stone, even if you don't know this about him, he was a very entertaining, a very good wrestler when he did that.
Robbie E.
And was also a good man. You know what I mean? Like, he has sort of the credibility piece and the competence piece that Ava never would have had. And so I think to that end, he just seems like a very natural fit, because he's had his boots on the ground, as it were. And so, yeah, I think it'd be a great thing for him to be the full-time GM. I think certainly he is proving to be a better conflict manager than Ava was in how he's even handling the stuff for the first few weeks that he's been in charge. So yeah, I agree with Regal. Take that interim tag off. Let's let him be the GM. I think that that if he needed to, he can take a few bumps. As far as I know, he doesn't have any significant injuries recently that would prevent that. But yeah, he can be the guy you really want to see get punched in the face, or he can be the guy who, is standing up for what's right and trying to do right by the organization. So I'm for it. Let's do it and ride the wave and kind of see what happens.
Speaking about riding the wave, I think I'm going to ride the wave out of here and hopefully get some sleep. Because man, I need it. I'm Nate Lindberg. You can check the things I do out at natelindberg.com. Kelly won't be here next week. Actually, I was going to say should be back next week. Won't be back next week because Kelly will be continuing to celebrate St. Patrick's Day in Ireland. The lucky devil. So next week I will be joined by David Miller to talk all about NXT. This week, though, I was joined by the professor, Kevin P. Cattani, PhD. Kevin, thank you very much for joining us. And who are you? Even though I just told everybody.
And I am Kevin P. Cattani, PhD. Yes, and you can find me on Twitter, on wherever you want to find me. At KP Cattani is my handle in most of those places. Let's talk wrestling. Let's talk nerd stuff like Magic the Gathering and D&D. Also, if I can be serious for a minute, and I know I just took somebody's tagline. I don't remember who it was.
Lance?
Who?
Lance Storm. It was Lance Storm.
There you go. There you go.
I was calling you Lance. I wasn't questioning who did it. But, yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
I also very much am passionate about and would love to talk brain health, especially knowing that most of our chat falls into the half of the gender that gets made fun of for not taking that more seriously. Certainly, if anybody would like to chat brain health, come find me on the Twitterverse and we can talk till you're blue in the face. So I just want to make sure I put that out there because as I teach a class on it, it is important. And I teach a class on it at my university. For those who are new to me, the professor is actually what my occupation is. But, you know, I realize that brain health can be a very isolating thing when you're in the middle of an episode. And it's so important to remind people you're not alone. There are people here that care. There are people that want to talk. And sometimes the best talks come from strangers. And so I know that I have familiarity with a lot of folks in the chat just from being around, but I'm a stranger to most of them. And if you trust me enough to reach out, I will pour into that conversation if you need me. So I just offer that to say I know that it can be very easy to feel alone, especially with everything that's going on in the world. But
yeah,
you are not, and if you need me, I would be honored to be called upon. So.
According to Ryan, I need to say PhD with enthusiasm like Kelly. So let me try this again. Dr. Kevin P. Cattani, PhD. All right. And with that, horseshoe.